Go ahead and get started. My name is Brad Eulig. Welcome to our webinar today on Denver rental property inspections. We have Fleming Shuttrumpf with us. He is a Denver property inspector, and so he's going to enlighten us on requirements, best practices, renewals, things like that. We went through this webinar a little while ago, and Fleming helped us with when people were trying to get their initial inspections done. And now I think we're headed for a round of renewals on those types of things. So Fleming's going to give us some insights on renewals as well. Before we get into that, we're going to talk a little bit about West Peak Properties, what we do. My name is Brad Eulig. My business partner is Jay Peterson, and we together own a boutique real estate brokerage firm here called West Peak Properties. We are a full service firm. We help people create cash flow and build wealth through investing in real estate. That's what we do. So we've been doing this since 2009. So what's that? 17 years, Jay? Almost, we're getting towards 20 years now. We've got a
Fun
ton of
by, yeah.
years, 20 ton of years of combined experience. We've closed several hundred transactions in that time. We can help you find it, analyze it, buy it, manage it, flip it, do a 1031 exchange, anything relative to investment properties. We do anything from a single family home or even a townhome or a condo up to 12 to 20 unit properties. A lot of our sweet spot is in that two, three, four, five, 6 unit property type stuff. We've done a ton of those. And we like to host these types of webinars to help people with their rentals to do better business. We do have an extensive network of investors. About 25% of our transactions occur every year off market. So it's always a good idea to reach out to us if you have a need. I have a duplex right now that is going under contract with a buyer. It never got to the market. So just things like that happen all the time. So feel free to reach out to us, find out what we might have off market, or if you have something to sell, we may have a buyer for you that we can just plug right in. We do host 2 to 3 of these webinars a year. You can find any of our past webinars on our website at westpeakproperties.com. We've done things like Section 8 rentals, short-term rentals, property management practices, 1031 exchanges, etc. So feel free to jump on our website and check out anything else that might be of interest to you. So today our guest speaker is Fleming Shuttrumpf. Fleming, I don't hear too many people call you Hasso, but apparently that is your first name. Uh,
Yeah, my parents had 9 months. That's what they came up with.
They have what?
They had 9 months.
yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
Maybe eight and a
So
half.
Fleming is also a real estate investor. This is what makes him unique, and this is how we know him. He's the author of 3 books, including Protest Your Taxes and Win and Buy Your First Investment Property Fast. He purchased over 40 properties while working as a full-time IT management consultant and has over 500 tenant years of property management experience. He's done over 100 property rehabs and now works as a rental inspector with the city and county of Denver rental licensing program. So we're very lucky to have Fleming with us today. And I will say one thing about Fleming is if you're going to have an inspection done, you might want to reach out to him to do it, because if there's anybody that's going to be landlord friendly, it's probably going to be him.
Mhm. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to let Fleming take it from here. So I'll stop my share, Fleming, and
And
let you
feel free to ask
take it.
questions along the way. We will stop and
Yes, questions are encouraged along the way. Jay will be handling the chat. So just type your questions in the chat and we'll get them handled.
Great. Can you guys see my slides?
Yep.
Yeah, wonderful. Oh, all right. Brad did a great job on the intro. So I think I'm going to just skip past this. Um, and next slide. So the 4 years ago, we did one of these webinars about the rental licensing program, and I think a lot of us were kind of me included, a little shell shocked, like what do we have to do now? And it's crazy. 4 years are up, and we're seeing the first renewals. And I think I'm a lot more hopeful than I was 4 years ago. The city of Denver has a lot to figure out, but they've really gotten a department off the ground from ground zero. And even though there are some growing pains with the renewals, we're going to see this get better. And some of this information here may be completely overtaken by innovation in the city and county of Denver, like in the next year or so. Um, it's been a little hard renewing licenses, first few that I've done, and hopefully it does get better. But I'll walk you through what you're going to encounter today because those are the challenges we all have to deal with, being the early adopters of the license renewals. So as before, you need an inspection. And um, for multifamily, only 10% of the units need to be inspected. Of course, it's 100% if it's a single family unit. And if you had more than one unit to choose from, we're supposed to randomly select them, except it's not random. If there's anything below grade, we have to select that. Um, so it's semi-random. And they want below grade apartments to be selected just because they have a higher risk of carbon monoxide poisoning as well as of flooding. And it used to be that we could inspect vacant units. That's no longer permitted. There's some cases in the news where they're saying only the brand new remodeled stuff was getting inspected and the existing tenants weren't having their units inspected. Now we're randomly selecting only non-vacant units. So again, not entirely random. Um,
So
and
Fleming, does that mean that if my units are all vacant, I don't have to have an inspection?
Good question.
no, it does not. I like it though. I have a similar exemption later. We'll get there, but I like your creative thinking. Yeah. So everything's kind of similar on the renewal to what it was filling out the original license application, except they've gotten stricter. Used to be when you filed under an LLC or a trust, you just had to upload like the Secretary of State registration docs. Now you have to upload an ID just the way if you're just a personal owner. Um, and I think what's kind of happened, I used to take all these like classes with a lawyer on asset protection and how to do trusts and LLCs to kind of protect my identity. Literally, what this rental licensing program does is I have to pierce my own veil and give my identity out to the public. And so it may not make as much sense as it used to use those other entities that we used to get coached to use.
Hmm.
So when to renew, you can renew up to 90 days before the license expiration. And in Boulder, for example, they would give you 90 days after the expiration. But Denver is like you have 90 days up front till the date of expiration, and after that, you're out of compliance. Um, and literally, I think this is what I was hinting at just now with your question, Brad. I was wondering if we now have these constructive eviction rules, but if I forget to renew my license, do I get to tell my tenant like, "Hey, you got to leave because I don't have a license"? I doubt it'll work that way, but it would be interesting for somebody to try to test it.
Mhm.
Um, so the key is start early because there's a lot of wrinkles and this process is not that well matured yet, and so you may need much of the time you give yourself um, when you start up front. So once the license is expired, technically you must stop renting the property. As if that's like really easy.
How's that going to work?
Yeah. And the city can begin their enforcement. And you'll see at the bottom, they recently raised the maximum penalty to $5,000 from 999. So that's healthy to fill the tax coffers there. Um, yeah. Next
Oh,
page. So really recommend start early. submit the application promptly because you're going to run into problems you didn't know you could have. That was literally the case on pretty much all but one of the renewals I've helped people with so far. Um, and you may want to really start tracking your expiration dates and put them on a calendar to get alerts so you don't blissfully unaware get surprised that you've already expired. And the one thing that's really important, renewal is considered to have happened when you've paid the fee and submitted your application. However long it takes the city to process the renewal is not something that we have to worry about.
So Fleming, a question for you here. So if you are not renewing, let's say you're new to this rental licensing thing and you need a license for a new rental or a new property or what have you. How long does that process take these days? And is it the same process
Yes, it's
or is there a different
essentially the
process?
same process. The renewal, you enter slightly less data, but still it's a boatload of data. The residential rental licensing program has been based heavily on the marijuana dispensary licensing program. And so you're looking at a four-part application, four different web forms that you fill out that are, some of them are like 20 some screens where you're just providing all kinds of information that you wonder why they need it. And just to give a comparison, like in Boulder, I had a 67-year-old lady fill out her rental license application in like 7 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And in Denver, I had an IT developer spend 4 hours on his Denver rental license application. So somebody who knows computers well took that long. And I think that speaks to kind of how those programs are architected differently.
Wow.
Okay,
Um,
I have a quick question on your previous slide, Fleming. If the owner
yeah,
submits the renewal application and pays the fee before the license expires, but Denver has not approved it yet, that owner can still legally continue renting the property, right? Without being cited.
correct. Correct.
Yeah. Okay. I think
Yeah,
that's
and the
kind of an
key
important
part
distinction.
is
Wow.
always it's not so much about having the license issued, it's about having paid the fee and submitted the application. That gets you off the enforcement radar.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. And this is
So
worth
then,
mentioning.
so then, so let
Go
me
ahead.
make sure I understand the process. So you pay the fee, you submit your application, then there's an inspection required, right?
No, the inspection is before you start the licensing application because you actually have to upload the inspection report as part of the application. Great
Oh,
question.
okay. Okay. So start with the inspection, basically.
Yes.
Get that done early, and then you'll have the paperwork and information that you need to do the renewal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people, some people I don't, sometimes I don't tell people that I do applications for them. I charge $125 to fill out an application. Some people find that out afterwards and they're like, oh, I wish I had known I would have gladly paid the money just to see you fill it out myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
There a period of time from your inspection to the point you got to get the application in, meaning if you inspect, like, let's say next month, but you don't get the application in for another month or two, is there a problem with that, or is there a timeline you got to get it done?
fantastic question. The inspection report is valid for 90 days from the date of inspection. And so if somebody, this happened a lot early on. People would start the application. It was really painful. They would be like, I'm going to drink wine and forget about this. And then all of a sudden, 90 days would pass. And then they're like, oh, I still got to do this. And then unfortunately, the city requires a re-inspection with a fresh inspection report if more than 90 days have happened. And I literally had one property management firm. They hired me to do about 200 inspections. And then being a full service property management firm, they got busy just doing their job and they forgot to file their applications. They literally had
Oh,
to pay for 200 re-inspections. So it's really
Oh,
important to pay attention to those deadlines.
oh
for
my
sure.
God.
Okay.
Crazy.
Yeah. But so getting to the biggest renewal problem is the original Excella, which is the third party hosting firm that hosts the Denver application process. If you can't access your account that you filed your original license with, this gets really challenging. Um, and Excella is kind of a pain. Like I've had a number of people, apartment complexes, you have kind of people that used to work there that use their email that's no longer available and with their password, and they're like, I don't know how to reset it. Um, so that's challenging.
Oh
This is
man.
a real problem. Yeah. Um,
How do you sort that out if that's an issue?
Perfect. Great timing on that. So,
Oh, here it
Denver
is.
Excises and Licensing, yeah, thank you, can reset the password, or sometimes if it's impossible to reset, which is surprisingly often, they can transfer your old license to a new account that you create using a different email address so that you can follow the renewal workflow there. But the interesting part is of the 6 out of 7 that were all just a cluster. Um, we've never seen this really work. So what I'm curious about is that when the city gets to their bottleneck at the end of the year, where everybody has their expirations, and they sometimes take 4 to 8 weeks to just respond to things, this may not happen in your timeframes. And so the option that I've been doing with these 6 out of 7 is we created a new licensing portal account using a different email, and then we filed a new licensing application. But then the city's like, you can't have two licenses. And then they make you go through the process. It's very Kafkaesque.
But does that get you compliant so you can keep renting it while they sort their whatever you want to call it out?
Uh, Probably because you have your existing license, which has a few days left. And it's so intriguing because to me, I'm like, come on, like you see, it's the same owner for the same property, and like let's say it ends on August 1st. Like just start the new license on August 2nd. Like how hard is that? And they're like, no, you have to surrender your old license, and then we'll issue your new license today. And so that's on the next page here. The surrendering is you go to this website, and then they'll send it to you in their deficiency notice. And then you
Oh
have
my
to look up the
God.
old license number and the new license number that you try to apply for and fill in all this other data. And then you have to sign it, submit it, and then they'll withdraw the old license, but they won't necessarily see that you've applied for a new license. So you typically have to go back in and resubmit the new license, and then hopefully all the things come together and you're happily relicensed.
So back to slide number one, start early.
That's right. Prepare for the unexpected. Have a bottle of wine handy.
Start early. Oh my God.
But we're going to make these slides, we're going to pass these slides out to all the attendees, right, Brad?
Yeah, so everything is recorded here, and this will go out to everybody that signed up for the webinar.
Because Fleming's
Um,
providing all these links and stuff, and in lieu of everybody trying to write all this down, you'll
oh
get
yeah,
this.
yeah. Nobody needs
Yeah,
to
it's
worry
not
about that
optimized
though.
for writing down. Uh,
Right.
yeah.
Jay, did you
Um,
have any other questions along the way?
well, I kind of have a question, but it ties into one of our attendees. My question is, what are the most common items causing Denver rental properties to fail renewal inspections? And are inspectors looking minimum for health and safety requirements or requiring properties to meet newer building codes?
Beautiful question. Do you mind if we just get through the rest of this and then let's
Yeah,
tackle it? Yeah.
yeah, because our attendee has a question about an inspection. So go ahead.
Yeah. So we talked about this, and here's the home page. You can find me on line 3 of the City Inspector Registry. And so we're through the slide deck. So let's tackle that question. Um, when we did this webinar in 2022, I personally was quite critical of the licensing program, and I thought it was overbearing and heavy-handed. I no longer think that. I think two election cycles later, the Denver the core rules that we're supposed to follow have gotten quite reasonable, and they provide a healthy safety inspection that helps us sleep well as landlords. No, having some sort of assurance that tenants, kind of attorneys, can't sue us for the tenant's negligence as easily as they might have been able to in the past.
Hmm.
But I was curious about the questioner's specific inspection questions because that way I can give more detailed information.
Yeah, so he's asking what is the fire extinguisher requirement?
Great question. So for multifamilies, they want a 2A 10BC fire extinguisher, but for like condos or homes or smaller units, any residential fire extinguisher will do. So Home Depot sells one that's about the size of my forearm. It's about $25. That is adequate.
And where do they
Uh,
have to be located on the property? Do they have to be on a wall somewhere, or can they be underneath the kitchen sink or?
I always recommend I prefer less holes in my walls. So under the kitchen sink, which is where the bulk of fires originate, is in the kitchen.
Okay.
so Fleming, I know that on my Airbnb in Littleton here, I have to certify that fire extinguisher when I renew my license. Is that an issue?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. So newer fire extinguishers have a date stamped on the bottom of the can. And my job is to check that they're less than 6 years old. They're kind of warranted for 6 years, and then older fire extinguishers over time they absorb a tiny bit of moisture and the powder clumps up, and that would render it useless in the event of a fire. Hence the need to replace them. And so that goes for the typical kind of cheapo residential fire extinguishers. They have a black handle, which means they're kind of disposable. The commercial ones have a silver handle, and then you can have a fire um, mitigation company recertify them annually, but it's often cheaper to just buy the disposable ones.
Mhm.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Yeah,
when
but
when
one, go ahead.
we get a business license, does it stay with the property or is it with the individual? Meaning, if there's a change of ownership, does a new owner need to get their own business license then?
That is correct. So it's with the owner or the manager of the property. And I've seen some property management firms to avoid the issue I talked about earlier, where I have to put all my personal details out there for the public to see. Some property managers will get the licenses for the owners, but then if the owner chose to change management, they would have to get a new license. So as soon as the licensee changes, a new license is required.
Oh, wow. It's a big change.
Yeah. But
Anything else?
go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Back to I get this question like twice a month. In 2022, they were really strict about egress windows, especially in basement apartments.
Yeah.
So in single family houses with a basement, egress windows aren't addressed at all in the residential rental housing code. For basement apartments, they are, but if the basement apartment was created before the egress codes in 1991, then it's grandfathered. If the basement apartment is newer than 1991, then it should have a compliant egress window. But most of the Cap Hill kind of apartments that were a real issue to even find access, space between the buildings when it's this much between the buildings to dig out an egress window, those are now grandfathered, and those egress windows concerns we had 4 years ago are just no longer an issue.
Hmm.
Wow. That was a big deal.
That was a huge deal.
Yeah, because a lot of those buildings were not conducive to installing egress windows.
I mean, I literally sold a building because I knew I couldn't get an egress window in, and I was terrified about the ramifications. So,
Yeah, right.
Right.
Interesting.
So on those multifamily properties, how are the units selected for inspection? Is it just kind of a
yes,
random selection? Okay.
Random
Because
as long as it's occupied and not random if it's in a lower level, it has to be inspected.
that's right. So the way I actually use I think it's a good use of AI. I put in that information and tell ChatGPT to randomly select stuff, and that I feel meets the random test.
there you go. Yeah, because prior to that, we used to be able to select the units to show, right? In
No,
2020.
it's always been a random process. Now it's less random because of those things. So
I
it's
got
it's semi-random. Yeah.
Okay. If
And then
anybody has,
what is the cost, Fleming, for renewals and things like that?
So I've charged the same amount for my inspections, which is 185 for single family inspections, and then it's lower if we have a bunch of multifamilies in the same location, then I can discount that. But the cost for Denver is $100 for a new license. It's $100 for a single family property for the 4 years. For 2 through 10 units, it's 150, and then it kind of goes upward based on the count of units. Um, the renewal is $50 cheaper. So a renewal for 4 years for single family is $50. For 2 through 10 units, it's 100. So that's their pricing scheme.
So it's not really about the money, it's just about your time.
That's really a big factor. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
some municipalities that actually have just a fee and not a inspection. They're like, okay, we're just going to be honest. We just want the money. The rest doesn't matter. So that's somewhere in Kansas. My girlfriend owns a property, and that's what she had to do. Just pay them the money, and they were good.
As long as we don't receive any complaints, you're fine.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I
Which
got
is
you.
all Denver really does. For the occupied units, the old complaint-based process is still in effect. That has not changed.
Right. But if they find that if they get a complaint and they find you didn't have your license, then that's the fine that they were talking about, 1,000 to 5,000 bucks, right?
$5,000 fine. That's correct. That's
Yeah.
correct. Yes, you were right.
Gotcha.
one of the questions is how do we give residents notice? I mean, I'm assuming it's just like any other kind of notice in your lease. You got 24 hours or unless you have another answer to that, Fleming.
No, that's a great question. And I think it comes up. I've never seen a population that gets COVID as often as people who are told they have to have a rental licensing inspection. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I'm sure.
Yeah, that's really a high risk population there. Um, I believe state law, and I'm not a lawyer, so don't quote me, but ask AI or whatever. But you're typically allowed a 24-hour notice access for these types of things, and your lease ought to provide you that right as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Most leases are 24-hour notice, but usually the more leeway time you give the tenant better. They like that better, obviously. So,
Yeah, and I always underscore to tenants, I'm not there to check their housekeeping. I'm not allowed to take pictures of like how they do stuff. I'm literally there to look up at smoke alarms, look down at outlets, look at the panel, the water temperature, the furnace. I'm not there to judge how many dishes are in the sink or how much dog hair is on the floor or who knows what.
right.
Right
Okay.
on. Anything else, Jay?
Yeah. No, if anybody has any other questions, please throw them out now. Otherwise, we're kind of getting wrapped up and appreciate everybody attending here today.
Fleming, did we not, that were there questions we should have asked that we did not?
I mean, you could ask like the most common non-conformances for a rental licensing inspection. We could talk through that real quick.
Sure.
First one is a fire extinguisher, super easy to fix. Some people still um, don't quite know yet. In 2016, the building code was changed to require smoke alarms inside each bedroom. A lot of people are like, I have one in the hallway. Isn't that enough? And I'm like, not anymore. And then you also need one in the hallway on each level, as well as a carbon monoxide alarm in the hallway of each level. And then the GFI outlets in every bathroom. And that's funny, Boulder doesn't care about that at all. They care about other things, but they're like, that's fine if you electrocute yourself in the bathroom. But Denver is very strict. It's a severe life safety issue for Denver.
Right. Okay. Very good. Jay, any more questions?
No, I just only had a couple here today and just, I was asking questions for my own benefit too, because I've got a couple properties that Fleming will
Right.
be
Yeah,
soon.
that's good. Well, thanks, Fleming. We really appreciate you yeah, helping us out with this one today. And again, we will get the recording out to everybody that registered, and I hope everybody has a great day.
Yeah, and just one last pitch for these guys. They've sold a building of mine and are about to list another one, and I really highly endorse Brad and Jay.
Thank you, Fleming. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.